You Ghanaians, in 1966, in your lack of wisdom collectively, you chose to truncate Kwame Nkrumah's presidency.
Our enemies are many, and they stand ready to pounce upon and exploit our every weakness. They play upon our vanities and flatter us in every kind of way.
And this guilt you must bear because it's a historical guilt. And when he left, he was in Hanoi, on his way to Hanoi in Vietnam. He was larger than life. The world, the black world, respected him. He was seen as the leader of the black man wherever he was. But he had no shortage of enemies, because men who do good have no shortage of enemies. The only person who of his contemporary leaders saw something good and unique in him was Guinea's Ahmed Sékou Touré. And you will remember with me that when he came back, it was in Conakry in Guinea that he was to settle until he left for Romania. And in his wisdom, Ahmed Sékou Touré made him the co-president. In fact, Ahmed Sékou Touré wanted him to be the president. It is he who said, no, it cannot happen. And he became the co-president. Why is this history necessary? Because at that time, Ghana was able, the leaders of the day were able to demonize Kwame Nkrumah. His legacy was almost obliterated. The statues that had been erected in his honor were brought down. So true that a prophet has no honor in his own home. But in 1972, he was taken upstairs. And when when the Ghanaians and Africans started reading some of his works, they were able to realize that a great man had lived in their land. Kwame Nkrumah's memory was restored. And lo and behold, we celebrate a great Ghanaian, a great African. And the reason why we celebrate the Osage for Kwame Nkrumah is because something happened in Africa and something continues to happen in Africa, which has not allowed Africa to realize our potential. Of course, the coup in Ghana was in 1966, but there had been an earlier coup, as I said, in Togo in 1960, and an even earlier confusion in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1961. But then thereafter, Africa started to move in a totally different direction. My own countryman, the renowned novelist Ngugi wa Thiong'o, writes in an article, The Politics of Self-Reliance, he says that it would appear that when Africans raised a new flag, the leaders of the day were mentally lynched. They had ears, but they could not hear. They had eyes, but they could not see. And there is a sense in which Ngugi was right, because then coup d'etats started taking place in Africa. In Nigeria, they took away Nnamdi Azikiwe and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and the Southerner of Sokoto. And there is a sense in which Nigeria has never been the same again. There is a sense in which Nigeria has never been the same again. They did not stop there. They went to Algeria and they took away Ahmed Ben Bella. And there is a sense in which Algeria has never been the same again. They did not stop there. They came down to Mali and they took away Modibo Keita. And there is a sense in which Mali has never been the same again. They went to Mauritania and they took others, and much more prominently they took away Mokhtar al-Dada. And Mauritania has never been the same again. They did not stop there. They were not in the business of stopping. They went to Central African Republic. They took away David Dacko. They went to Cameroon. They took away Amadou Ahidjo. They tried to take away Sékou Touré. They failed. But they did not stop there. They went into every country. They went to Congo. They went to Uganda. They went everywhere. And they took away leaders so that Africa was, in a manner of speaking, a pawn in the political chessboard of the erstwhile colonizers. In fact, coup d'etats became so frequent in Africa that those who did not love Africa were hard to say that coups were as frequent as breakfast in Africa. What they did not know was that even breakfast was no longer frequent on African tables, because Africans were no longer engaged in agriculture. Africa was no longer engaged in any meaningful production. All these while the Organization of African Unity, which had been created in 1963 as our savior, was not doing much. African Union, Organization of African Unity, became an annual jamboree of dictators at which they discussed very little. African politics had changed. When the coups left us, it did not stop there. The degeneration of African politics continued apace. Leaders who were surrogates of the colonizers dotted the African continent. And Africa became infamous for leaders whose greatest claim to fame was that they exploited their people and destroyed their countries. Who among you here will forget the exploits of Congo's Mobutu Sese Seko, who at one time was richer than his country, courtesy of his kleptocratic regime? Who among you here will forget the madness of Jean Bedel Bokassa, who crowned himself an emperor? Who among you here can afford the luxury of forgetting such individuals? Who among you will forget the activities of Mengistu Haile Mariam in Ethiopia? Who among you can afford that luxury? Who among you here can afford to forget the activities of Hissène Habré in Chad? And the list is as long as your arm. African leaders were engaged in the kind of politics that was destructive of the continent. And African peoples were no longer enjoying their independence. Nkrumah had been clear in his mind that we seek first the political kingdom and the rest will be given unto us. But it would appear that the African leaders had it differently. Seek ye first the political kingdom and poison the political kingdom they must have had. So they poisoned the political kingdom and denied the African population the opportunity of enjoying the economic dividends of independence. They denied the Africans the opportunity of enjoying the dividends of unity. And Africa became not only the land of coups, but also the land of guerrilla fighters. Because these guerrilla fighters now emerged from the bush because Africa had to be liberated one way or the other. We had many of them.